have the excitement of the unknown. Hey, am I gonna drop it? It's gonna flip, but I'm getting used to it.
It did look a little squirrely for a second.
Yeah, but I think that's just the rail system. But I mean, it works. So,
dude, it seems like a good little setup. And like you were telling me earlier, having that rather than spending a lot of money on a trailer that you're really only going to be putting one bike in, 100% makes sense. You know,
right? Yeah.
Easier to drive, easier to worry about parking. You know what I mean?
That's actually my entire logic behind it. Just not the most inexpensive, but it's just the best of both worlds. You got your bike. You know, in my case, my wife went with me. Everybody could have gone. And the bike was up there secured and everything. Just be careful with the bumps, just like anything.
So what
else.
is it again? Just so the listeners know, explain it to them.
All right. So I recently purchased a lift, right? And the manufacturer is called Rampage. Rampage lifts, and essentially it's a mechanical lift, but it's really off of a winch. It's a winch system. So there's a system that goes to it, but essentially you have like your chalk that kind of comes down, right? You put your wheel up there and then you tighten it up. But you can't tighten it up too much because as the bike, when you make the bike go up onto the first part of the ramp or the lift, when the bike settles in, it compresses the suspension a little bit more. So you just got to compensate for that. And I was just trying to figure that out, and I fortunately did. And of course, then you like take one of the pins off, which is what keeps the lift in place as the bike goes up. And then you take the pin out, and then but before you take the pin out, there's a pin here where you kind of lock the chalk with the actual frame. Once you take that other pin off for that rail, then you just press it, and the whole thing just comes up. Boom, both the front, and then you're done. Obviously, you want to strap it on four sides, on the truck. But it worked great, man. I really like that lift. But it's Rampage. There's no discount code or anything. I just bought it. I don't know anybody over there. I just bought it for convenience, and I'm happy I did. You can pull up into McDonald's with a bike.
That's kind of the move. I'm not quite ready to buy a vehicle that's capable of really pulling a trailer. Like I like my Jeep and everything, and my wife and I got this old van that we've been running around in, and all the bikes I'm trying to customize or build right now, I'm trying to build with the idea of like I need it to be under 49. Will we measure like 50 inches or 49?
Okay.
To get it into the van.
Oh yeah.
So that we could like just take the van somewhere and then pull the bike out, and then we could lay down a mattress and sleep in the van.
That would be a perfect scenario.
Yeah. But yeah, the first thing I'm still trying to do the LS swap on it. So I want to do an LS swap on the van, so it's like a more modern motor in it, and then we'll start road tripping and taking the bike places and shit.
Dude,
it's
gonna be a ripper.
I hope, yeah.
You get the brakes to accommodate that, obviously. But no. LS swap, man, I like it.
It's just something different. The Sprinter van is the most ideal thing to do, but it's kind of what everybody does, and I'm not hating on it because it's the most practical application and thing to do. But man, I don't know, just something about having an old school van like that pulls up, and it's weird how many people are freaked out by it. Vans are like clowns. Like some people fuck with clowns, and some people are like it's a huge triggering thing. And I think the van is the same thing for people.
No, I agree. Yeah, I have a 2005 Silverado, and that has all original miles except the water pump, like almost 250,000 miles on it.
Damn.
And it's Z71 4x4. That's one I was actually going to take to Arizona for Arizona Bike Week, but it's 2005 power. You know what I mean? And I thought about putting a supercharger on there, but if I do this and that, and the backstory on that truck is it used to be my dad's before he passed, and I've maintained it original.
Oh, that's cool.
With the exception of putting like the middle front bumpers and the middle rear bumpers, because traffic in Houston, they run up on you, right?
Yeah.
So just that's more of a protection aspect of it. But I was like, I don't know, and then suspension and this. So that's when I ended up getting that brand new F250, and I've never owned a diesel. I've never whatever, but I think it's a good time to buy those kind of trucks because, dude, it's a 2024 model. It's a new truck.
Yeah.
But I bought, what did we, in April, March? March when I bought
April
it.
now. Yeah. Or yeah, March.
Yeah. So when I bought it right before Arizona Bike Week, and it's a good time to buy those. But I didn't plan for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So now that you've done like, I'd say 2 of the major 3 rallies in America between, Laconia, Sturgis, and Daytona, like the major 3. And then now you just got back from Arizona Bike Week. So give me your pros and cons of each one of those rallies that you've been to in the last, couple of years. Because you just got back from Daytona.
Right.
You just got back from Arizona Bike Week, and then you've done Sturgis the last couple of years. So.
Yeah. So I'll start off with Arizona Bike Week because that's kind of fresh on my head. I think I would just start off with it was a good time. But the thing about Arizona Bike Week for the first time going, right, was I don't want to say it's too far out of my way because you got Daytona and Sturgis are pretty much equal distance from Houston. But I think that a lot of people don't realize that Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the country, right? So when you're in Daytona, there's a bike rally. When you're in Sturgis, there's a bike rally. When you're in Galveston, there's a bike rally. When you're in Laconia, I haven't been, but I've seen it. It's obvious that there's a bike rally.
Yeah.
And Phoenix is such a large city, the 5th in the country, that there's a lot of like city riding to get to Westworld, to get to Arizona or to Scottsdale, Harley Davidson, or once you get out to Cave Creek, you're fine. But there's still a lot of city, and I'm like, dude, I could have done this back home in Houston, right? Or even here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I don't, it was my first time where I guess the rally doesn't revolve around the city and the city doesn't revolve around the rally, So that kind of thing is just,
it's a different
feel in my opinion. I was not a fan of having to pay to get into Westworld. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I know, whatever setup these rallies have, and they probably have it for a reason, is fine. But for a consumer that, you go the distance, you got the road money, the hotel money, and there's still an expense, whether you're a company or a private consumer or wanting to share the content, right? And again, it's nothing that breaks the bank, but I've just never been to a rally, I guess is where I'm having a hard time, where you have to pay to get in to see the vendors to potentially buy stuff. The only places I've done that to is like your Texas gun shows. You pay $5-10, you go buy a gun, right? But I just don't know how I felt about that, and then also I know like if you want to get an upgrade in Daytona, right, or in Sturgis or wherever, you just have to tell the security personnel there, they're working with traffic, and hey, I got this install, and you just go in, that's it. There you need a sticker that I guess you get from the vendors if you kind of gonna buy something. And then you have to go through security with your motorcycle. And it reminded me, I mean, not 100%, but the kind of like, when you come across the American border and like, customs, wherever pulls you over and they're like, hey, open your trunk, open your saddlebags, or open this, whatever. That's how it was.
Yeah.
I had to go through a metal detector, but I was like, I was just inside, And again, I know everybody has security measures. I'm not knocking on the security. I'm all for security and law enforcement and stuff like that. But I just thought that was a little redundant and very discouraging, in my opinion. That could have been just how it's done the whole time.
Yeah, but wouldn't you still be able to like pull a pocket knife, or most motorcycles?
You can buy them in there. They were selling knives in there.
So, but could you take your knife into there?
I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I didn't have one on me, but I'll tell you this. I had some food, a bag of food, of chips or whatever that was left over from Daytona on my King Tour pack.
Yeah.
They took it. Like, you can't take no food in there. Or not that we were trying to, but it's just coming from like Lone Star Rally, Galveston, my home kind of turf, right? You just have to pay, if you want to park in the Strand, you just have to pay your, $20 a day or $40-50 for the whole 4 days, right? Again, you have to pay, right? But you can take all the beers you want. I had an ice chest, in my saddlebag. My buddies did as well in their King Tour pack. You can buy the beers from the bar areas, or you can just take your own beer, open it up, and walk up and down. Cops are cool as hell. Just don't shoot nobody, because they're shooting there the year before that. And they're just more worried about just, nobody, I guess, hurting anybody else. But you go in there, you can walk around with your beers, you can sit down on the curb. If you want more beer and you run out, you can just buy some more. But if you have, a case of beer and it's 4 of you guys, you have beer there, and you're essentially saving some cash there.
And if you don't want to pay that money, you could just park on a street over and walk into it. It's not like fenced off, and it's
exactly. I mean, it's just that's just if you want to park on the Strand. But there's literally the next streets across, you can park anywhere. You know, so that's the only thing. So I guess coming from that now back to Arizona Bike Week, you know, it was very controlled, very concert-ish kind of going into, you know. And I just that may have been how they've done it, but I just wasn't a fan.
That's how Rot Rally was for a lot.
Oh, was it?
Rot Rally got to a point where it ended up, I think by the time it was done, if you're doing the full 4 days, you were paying like upwards of $150 a person to be in there. Now, I think for the most part, you could kind of camp in there and you know stay there camping. But of course, if you had an RV, that was a different price. If you're doing any of that stuff, but I think maybe that model of like rally is kind of starting to kind of phase out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because not a lot of us are trying to go. Like I get it. You go to the Buffalo Chip and you get to see Kid Rock. It's like an added bonus to the whole situation. But I'm not trying to go to Sturgis to go watch concerts. But I know a lot of people enjoy the fact that they're there. Yeah. So I get it. But
at least the option for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. No. So that's I guess that's the negative I'm starting with. And then Arizona Scottsdale, Harley Davidson. I released a video on that. It was a nice dealership. I just don't know why I expected it to be bigger than what it was. There was vendors there, like, you know, we were talking about Simpson helmet guys, and you know, Clockworks was there too, and some of the people that they're escaping me. But I thought there was gonna be more of more real estate in the parking area, but this was the kind of dealership that's more dealership than real estate to park. You know, so you know, here or there, but again, you could just go in there and park. You don't have to pay for nothing. Yeah. And then Cave Creek, we went to Cave Creek. I did Cave Creek pretty much one day. The ride up to Cave Creek was really nice. You know that you're in the desert terrain. You know the scenery, just you know the vibe, the nature, those cactuses, those really expensive looking houses that are kind of incognito. Just very nice right out there. And of course, it's just one road going in, one road coming out. So you have to be patient in terms of, you know, managing your bike in and out. Parking was kind of a pain, but I did go on a Friday, like around 4 or 3. So, you know, that's kind of a me. But that was definitely more my scene, our scene. You know, it was during the Trask Bagger Show. So, you know, all our people were there. You know, the Thundermax guys. Shout out to Thundermax, right? Clean Moto guys. You know, just all the people that we kind of hang out with. And they were all there. And everybody was just chilling out, you know, just, you know, having some refreshments and just catching up. And now, and there's a bar that's like a little bit further down that you kind of walk into. I went in there first with my wife and Anthony, and it was a good time. It just very kind of chill, you know. And then we went across the street to eat at
Is it Hideaway?
Is it Hideaway? I don't know. I have it on my video. Maybe Hideaway or
Hideaway usually has like a parking lot with vendors in it too, and it's like a
so it's probably
style
that
bar.
There you go. Yeah. So we walked across over there, and got some of their steak tacos. They were good, and then we walked through Buffalo Chip there. Not like Buffalo Chips in Sturgis or anything like that, but walked to there. Just walked in, walked right out, just to kind of check it out, and then we left. So all in all, Cave Creek was definitely a nice time. It was a good time, but I just don't know if I would be returning, you know. And if I do, you know, you never say never, you know. But I'll tell you what's really a lot of fun was I got the personal shop tour of the Trask Performance new area, and that will be coming out here pretty soon. And it's massive. It's all in house. There's no doubt everything's American made. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Dude, a couple years ago, that video that came out on Nick Trask, that real professional kind of like documentary kind of thing. Yeah. That shit was badass because I never knew about, and it happened while I was in the motorcycle world, but about the shop getting burnt down and all that type of stuff. Yeah. I mean, that was such a good video on the Trask team out there.
Yeah, and what you see is what you get with those guys. Yeah. You know, like with you guys. What you see is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you're going to get. You know, these are your expectations, but this is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Straight up guys, everybody's cool, no judgment, and you just feel welcomed. You know what I mean? Just feel really welcomed. And it's always a good feeling to do. And then it was my wife's first time hanging out with me, so she's meeting all these guys. So it was pretty cool. She's like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
I don't want to come to you with you to the rallies. I'm like, perfect. Love you, wives, if you're watching this. But no, that was a really good time. I mean, big facility, everything, like your place here, everything's clean. The floors are clean. Everything's in its place. Very organized. The entire staff is cool as heck. Nothing I haven't said about them before, but just seeing them in a new facility and just kind of getting just big. Yeah. I feel like on the turbo scene, like I've had mine 3 years now and whatever. Mm-hmm. But I feel like now in the this recent Daytona, I think there was, turbos like candy out there, you know? So I'll say that, but that's pretty much in a nutshell, about Arizona Bike Week.
I wonder, obviously Arizona Bike Week, just kind of knowing a little bit about some stuff between like Cruzy and the original people that do Westworld. Like there was a tiff going on where there was like Bike Week Arizona and Arizona Bike Week, right? And they were doing separate things. But me personally, like Arizona has such cool areas like Prescott, things like that seem like it would be more like if they did Arizona Bike Week in Prescott, you would feel like you were saying, I feel like I'm at a bike rally because this town could turn over and turn into this kind of place. And it's like kind of atop a, not quite a mountain, but damn near. So all the roads leading in are badass.
Oh, that would be dope.
You know what I mean?
That would be dope as hell.
I don't know if the town could handle, 50,000 people or however many people are coming to Arizona Bike Week. But
yeah, but with us, there's a will, there's a way, man.
Get a couple, things. But I think that's what's going to that's definitely one thing that hurts a lot of those rallies that aren't like in rural areas like what Sturgis is, or Laconia is kind of like that. I think all the stuff that happens in Laconia is kind of more outside of Laconia. It's around a dealership and a lake out there. I haven't been, so I could be talking way out of my ass. But just doing the research I've done on the place is kind of not spread out, but it's kind of like Daytona. You got Daytona, and then you got like where Teddy Morse is and that road up to that area, Ormond Beach or whatever that's called. I forget.
Yeah.
So you have a few miles between where things are going on. You know what I mean?
To get a ride. Now, you do bring up a good point. I ran into some people that follow the channel, and they suggested this place called Tortilla Flats, I think. Tortilla Flats.
I've heard of that. I haven't ridden it.
Tortilla Flats. And they said from Westworld out is an hour and a half ride and then back, right? But while you're there, we were going to do it, but we just ran out of time.
Yeah.
Time just escaped us, especially having to come all the way back to Houston and pick up our son from daycare, right? But it sounded very interesting, but like telling me the road, obviously we like to ride and all that good stuff. But I feel like if I would go again, I don't know if I would do Westworld unless I have summer commitments and stuff. I would definitely do Cave Creek.
Yeah.
Maybe a day or so, and then plan a route through the mountains out there in Phoenix, like as you said, or Arizona, and then ride back home and just ride.
Yeah.
Enjoy these roads. That's probably kind of like how I did to Daytona. So, and the last thing I'll say about Arizona Bike Week is I tried to go to Cruzy's thing that they had out there. But we just ran out of time. We just miscalculated. And actually we actually passed by it on the way home.
Yeah.
But we the thing is you get off like, oh, let me just say hi, whatever, man, that's going to be 4 hours. And then, I could have been past, Tucson somewhere. I don't know. I
feel like the first time you go to an event, there's a lot more like feeling it out, seeing what you enjoy, exactly like you just did. Right. And then the second time you go back, you can kind of come back with the mentality of, okay, well, I'm not going to waste any time here. I'm going to focus on this, and this, and then we're going to go spend a day or two doing these different roads and rides and whatnot. And I think that's probably the best move out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. So moving on to Daytona, right? Daytona, I'll just lead off what I said about there. Daytona is a good time. I really enjoy Daytona. It's a good time all around. But the first time I went there and I was there for like 5 days straight. Yeah. And I think it's cool. But last year and this year, what I did was I'll actually be in Daytona 2.5 days, 3 tops. Mm-hmm. But my time frame being away from home is the same. Mm-hmm. So what I'll do is I'll try to make it down to the Keys. But what I'll do is last year I left Houston. We spent the night. It was only a 6-7 hour ride at Pensacola. And then we went down to what is it, Tampa, and then Naples, and then Miami, and then the plan was to go down to the Keys, but that didn't work out, and then came back home. And then this year it's like, okay, we're gonna do that, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it down to the Keys, but we're gonna go the straightest shot. We're gonna avoid Tampa because a lot of people don't realize, but between Pensacola and Tampa, that's a little ride. That's a little ride.
It's like 500 miles.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, I could do it. I've done 1,000. They were 1,500, 16 that is. But it's like, but it's still 500 fucking miles. Sorry, it's still 500 miles. So I was like, okay, we went down I-10, down 75 to Orlando, spend the night right outside of Orlando, which is still like 1,000, 1,100 miles. And then from there, we woke up early and we burned out to Miami. The plan was to go hang out with some of our friends over at the All American Cycle, where they build these really rad bikes and stuff. And then Anthony was there from Michigan, so we're just gonna hang out, and then we're gonna leave. My brother, after we went to the Miami dealership there, the main one, and then we ate, and we were just tired. I was like, man, by the time we go to the Keys, it's like 3 hours. Say what's up, come back. It's 7. It's 9 o'clock at night. We didn't have a hotel. And on that trip, we didn't buy any hotels or anything. We just wherever we end up. So,
well, the Keys, one of the things, it's 90 miles from the start to basically the end, right? I think it's 90 or 50. I'm thinking 90 is to Cuba from the Keys or whatever. It's something like that.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's 35 miles an hour and it's traffic. And so you're not really getting a chance to move very fast, and there's cops everywhere.
So you're just clutching and all this.
Yeah.
And
You can't go around people. You can't haul. I'm on that like 7 Mile Bridge, I think is what it is, or something like that. You can kind of ride it a little bit because you can kind of scan and see what's ahead of you or whatnot. But I definitely suggest it. It's a great time. I had a blast down in the Keys, but it's kind of like one of those things you want to do off season or something, like, or during the middle of the week when it's not like a tourist spot,
I agree. And what we were trying to do is, and again, it didn't work out with time. We were trying to be there early, because I think you get more tired going with traffic and then coming back with traffic. But if we left like at early and we would like see the sun come up there, I think it would have been cool, and then we can just take our time.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. So we're in Miami eating, and I was like, I was telling the guys, also from Houston, and I was like, you know what, man? I don't think it's a good idea to go down to the Keys, and it also flooded, so we don't know if that was going to be even more stuff, right? And I don't know what areas, whatever, and we're on 2 wheels, and we were just yesterday we were in Houston. You know what I mean? Like, shoot. So it's like, it's like, all right, well, I'll tell you what, let's go there, hang out with the guys at All American, and just take it for a spin and see what happens. So we went out there, had a great time. Amazing hospitality. We went to their bike night down there in Miami. Holy smokes, dude. These guys are runners. Most of these guys are, you have your riders and then you have your jockeys, right?
Yeah.
So your jockey is your guy that can just get on a bike, feel it out for a little ride or two, and then beat people on that bike par for par, right? And so I'm like, man, these guys, like, I've heard about them, but like, they get down and they're so cool, man. They actually let me ride one of their 147s.
Damn.
And 190 some horsepower CBO, and it's like, what? And another 133 from their design that was also pushing 165 on carbon wheels, So the tone of the tune, and that's a whole different topic, but I was just very impressed. And so anyway, so we spent the night, and the next day we went to Daytona. We went to Daytona, hung out at Daytona about 3 days or 2.5 days, or no, it was about 3 days, 3 full days. Not including the getting there and leaving. And it was a good time. Daytona was a good time. But to your point, I've been there several times, but I really focused on the shows.
Yeah.
That's really why I went. I went for the proper performance bagger show, the hangover show. I mean, all those guys, mercenary company guys.
Yeah.
And just all those guys, they're just a ride. They're a good time. They're just so cool, man. And which other one? Did Shifter Crew have one? I don't know. There was there was 3. I missed.
Was there something at Teddy Moore's spot?
Yeah, it was there at Teddy's. I missed the one with Jeff because that's when we were coming back.
Yeah,
it would just been too long. But anyways, I kind of focused them around that. Then I had some obligations as well, so it all worked out good. But I planned my obligations around those shows. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we like to see. And then during the I want to say during the V-Twin show, that's when they revealed CBO RR, and I didn't even know what was going down. I was like, hey, they're over here in the race team. I was like, what? Like, okay. But yeah, man, it's just a lot of people ran into. It was a great time, but I think, and I was watching your last one of your last podcasts, but I have to agree that a highlight of Daytona for me personally is that ride to the performance
the hood
hangover
ride
show.
thing.
Yeah, that's money. You know, it's just the thing is when you haul it by yourself is one thing. When I was with a few people, when you have everybody, I think the unknown is kind of attractive to some people.
Yeah.
You know,
It's an adrenaline rush.
well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is, you know, so, and I got there and, you know, took some pictures and I mean, I feel like each year it has, cause I went to the one at,
Space Coast?
Space Coast. That's the first one I went to. And then they had them over here, but, at Orlando Harley Davidson. And it's just such a nice setup. I mean, it's cool, but, I was talking to one of the guys from Mercedes and they said, there's free beers over there. I was like, oh, awesome. And we were just chit-chatting. And he says, we bought so much beer that he had to sign an ATF form.
For real?
Yeah, that's what they told me. I was like, that's a lot of beer. Like, you know, I guess, I don't know what form, but I'm guessing something where you're not going to bootleg it or sell it across state lines or, you know, whatever.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's just like the commercial quantity, I guess. I was like, damn. And I was like, well, we appreciate it coming from out of town.
I feel like I'm going to have to go back today. I haven't been back since 18, and 18 just put such a bad taste in my mouth that I didn't want to go. And it wasn't so much that it wasn't a good time or could be a good time. It's just that like it didn't check some boxes that I personally needed out of events and rallies. But there is the aspect of all the friends and homies that are from the East Coast that are there at that event that you kind of want to connect with and whatnot. But I don't know. We'll see what the weather and the time and everything involved looks like next year. Maybe it'll be the one. You know,
I've never been to Daytona without coming and or going in rain or rain and cold or cold and rain with wind.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
And that's kind of I think that's what we experienced when I went. It was freezing, and I mean I'm like, this is spring break. I want to be, you know, the whole point is to go be somewhere on a beach. It's like. We could have went to Padre and had a better time or something in Texas. You know what I'm saying?
Even Corpus.
Yeah, Corpus. Yeah.
Corpus,
so
you know?
I don't know. But you can kind of see, I think me and Mark were talking about this in that Lendahl podcast. I think you can kind of see the guard changing a little bit in Daytona, where a lot of these shows are starting to become more performance based, if that makes sense. I mean, you still got your chopper scene, but I think maybe the performance motorcycles are starting to kind of push out the big wheels a little bit, and get more those kind of show, you know, premises. And that's kind of what we were talking about a while ago about like Sturgis. I think that it's in the beginning stages, if you will, moving out some of those older demographic shows that aren't really fitting the needs of the styles of bikes that we are kind of riding now. You know?
No, yeah, there was definitely a lot of. Well, you know, that is thank you for bringing that up, because it is nice to run into people you've seen and you would like to see these people all the time, but everybody's all over the place, right? But that is definitely nice. Like, hey, dude, what you been up to? You know, and just catching up with all.
It's not even about like when you go to the shows there. Like I'm just imagining the Daytona one, whether you're at the Hangover show or the Proper Baggers one, like you're just connecting with all the people that you know through socials or you've met in other, you know, parts of the country at some times. And you kind of forget sometimes that there's a show going on. It's like I'm mingling and networking and whatever you want to call it so much. Yeah.
And then on the, I guess, social stuff, there's some opportunities that would have popped up if you would have never gone, or vice versa. You know, you're just like, oh man, I didn't know, you know, oh, thanks. Cool. We'll talk, you know?
Yeah.
So no matter big or small, you know, and that's always nice. But you know, I like it. I really enjoyed it. But there's one regret I keep having when I go to Daytona, because, you know, I'm busy or I'm going to this show or that show or whatever. I'm going around. I've been wanting to ride my motorcycle on the Daytona beach.
Oh,
I just haven't been able to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe next year I'll go during Daytona Bike Week. And not that I need Daytona Bike Week for this to happen, but I think it would just bring a different little aspect. Like, hey, like we're riding on the beach, or I don't know. And you know, call me crazy. It's just if walking, swimming, having a good time, I like the water a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like, with the ocean breeze, like just you and I don't know. I just think it brings a different dynamic to riding a bike,
I think the only beach I've ever ridden on is like Galveston, like down towards like the ends of the island, not so much like in the Galveston proper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We used to rent like a cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was in my bike club, it was actually a condo. It was like an apartment condo thing. And we would rent out like a whole block of it. And then
you're talking about down there at the end of the island.
On the very end. And so we would rent out a whole thing, and then it was literally facing the ocean. So we would be able to like walk out and do a bonfire. And we used to have like,
that's so cool, man.
We would host like a party on the beach back in the day. And some clubs would come out. Some of them would stick more to the strand or whatever. But it was definitely a vibe. A bonfire on a beach, I don't care where you're at, is a good time.
It's a good time.
And then you got the breeze and the
Well, that's what I mean. You have. I don't care if it's hot a summer day or a cool day. And the nighttime, the wind's gonna drop. The temperature's gonna drop with that wind, with the breeze. So you got your little warm going on. You got your little beers or whatever. You're having a good time. Your people. You got your little hoodie on. This and that. You got a comfortable spot. That's money all day, bro. That's money all day, man. So, but yeah, that's how Daytona was, and but I feel I enjoyed it more this year. But I think maybe because I focused on what I wanted to do.
Yeah. You've honed in like some of the things that you get the most out of personally, right? So, how would you say that's transpired over the years of doing Sturgis now?
Well, so the very first time that I went to Sturgis, I didn't know anybody. Nobody knew me, which looking back was actually pretty cool.
Was that the first year that we met?
That was the second year.
Second year, okay.
Or third. Second or third year. Second year.
All right.
Yeah. No, it was the second year. But, and I actually got an Airbnb right in Sturgis proper, which actually worked out great. Definitely not the cheapest, but it worked out great. I just wanted to go see what's up. But that was actually my first longest ride I ever did. And the longest ride was basically from work to the house. And my longest ride after that was from Houston to Sturgis on the 131 that was like hot thing back in the day.
Yeah.
And the only reason I went there was because talking to Eric at Trask, they're like, hey, we do free turbo installs at Sturgis and Daytona. I was like, well, I just got an excuse. Let's go. So that's when I rode back with the 131 with the turbo. But no, I went there and I stayed in Sturgis proper, and it worked out great because I was able to when I say I didn't know anything, like I didn't know how to get to Iron Mountain Road. I didn't know how to get to Deadwood, Keystone, I didn't know how to get anywhere.
Yeah.
I was like literally relying on reviews and asking people and all that stuff, which is always nice because a lot of people have a certain image of bikers at rally, especially something like Sturgis. And for me, the first time going, didn't know nobody. I was like, hey guys, do you guys know how to get to like, oh yeah, everybody was super helpful. Everybody was super nice. And now I find myself being that person to some people, which is kind of paid for, right? But no, so the first time I went, it was a good time. And then I went again when we hung out. And then of course I went, last year, but I will say it's just a more, Sturgis is different though. Because there's a lot to do in Sturgis for riding. There's shows, you got the dungeon kind of vibe, One-Eye Jacks, and then you got all the parties, that are individual, settlement party, and then just the other ones that kind of you're invited to. But I think with Sturgis, I think also, but I will say with the more people that I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to meet and stuff, I think I don't want to say it's like the circle smaller, but it's wider as well at the same time because you're able to kind of like, hey, let's go here, let's go there. All right, we'll be there. All right, I'll meet you there. And the thing I like it is like everybody's an individual, but everybody still hangs out.
Yeah.
Versus you're the individual and everybody's hanging around you. You know what I mean? But it's I don't know if I have anything bad to say about Sturgis at this point. Besides just being too far from Houston, but that's the ride. Because on the way back, dude, it's freaking hot.
Yeah.
Hot, bro.
Yeah.
It never fails. It's not raining. It's just hot. Except this last year. It was cold. But, man, it's just hot, man. But, yeah, so throughout the years back to Sturgis, I've just kind of honed it in. Kind of like I have with Daytona. But Sturgis is a little bit more spread out. And you don't feel... It's kind of like what I started saying with Arizona Bike Week. You're in a rally.
Yeah.
And it's just the vibe that goes with it. I mean, why would we go to a rally besides hang out and be with biker buddies?
Yeah. Well, what's good about Sturgis is like Rapid City is,
That's
you know,
another
it's a
one.
pretty good sized town, but it still feels like you're at a bike rally when you're there. You know, every hotel has got nothing but motorcycles parked out front of it. You got the Black Hills dealership that's actually a destination that most people want to, I would say, check out when you go to the whole event. And it's a main vein to get down towards like Hill City and, you know, Keystone and all that to go do Iron Mountain and what is it, Needles and all that mess.
Needle, yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, it's definitely. I don't know. I feel like they have it. It's a good setup.
Yeah.
It's a good for a first timer or somebody that's been many times.
Yeah. You could go there for the first time and feel like you left a lot of meat on the bone.
Which is,
And then every time you come back, you'll meet people and you'll hang out with somebody at a hotel you stayed in or a campground you stayed at. And next thing you know, you're homies with them and they live across the country. It's just, it just opens up the doors for, you know, connectivity and whatnot. So
yeah, no, for sure, 100%. But I get, it's like there's always something new because now switching the conversation from the experience to the actual products to the market, right? Like this piece is going to make my bike faster or ride better or make me a better, more confident rider, right? Like, you know, I feel like Daytona, Sturgis, are like where either private shops are coming out debuting bikes, or like, hey, this product's been around, but we just improved it. Like it's like a very very product,
like Daytona is.
kind of very product driven, which I personally enjoy, whether I use it or not. But
I think Daytona definitely has more builds coming out. I mean, there's just a lot of people that are building bikes. You know, a lot of the East Coast is they have a, you know, a finite amount of riding season, if that makes sense. And you're literally going to have a lot more people building bikes over the winter, and then they come to Daytona and bring them out. I mean, every year it seems like. But Sturgis, you have the bikes, but you like, I don't know. I feel like there's not as many bikes getting built and unveiled at Sturgis as Daytona is.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's
on that
middle
as
of the
well.
season too for most people, if not the end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I would agree with that as well. But I think that's what I'm saying. I think the products, like, it could be like the little shifter thing that's going to make you get into neutral. You know what I mean? Or the new shock reservoirs that are going to be better, you know, or this better seat or the bars or even a whole new bike, depending on who's, you know, which, you know, whether Indian Harley or Kawasaki, BMW, whoever's, all those people
dropping
are there.
stuff,
Yeah. But that's, I really enjoy that aspect as well. So, you know, Sturgis is a good time, but I definitely know where I would want to hit up. But before I go now, it's like I reach out to people. It's like, hey, man, where you guys going to be? What do you guys got going on? All this, because there's always something going on that you don't know about.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm over there, you know, in Houston, and then everybody has their own life. So it's like, oh, I missed that post or I missed it. So what I try to do when I see them, I screenshot it and put it in my favorites. So like, oh, okay, I got this. And I'm like, okay, let's see if that happens. You know?
Yeah.
Just to kind of plan for it.
So the other thing I wanted to get with you on and ask your opinion about is going from riding the 131s, the turbo 131s, and now kind of stepping into the new 121 VVT market and the new CVO, just a new platform. Like what's some comparisons that you enjoy about the new bike over the old bike and maybe wish the old bike kind of had still, or, you know what I mean? A little back and forth with that.
Yeah, well, I can tell you. So before I had this CVO 121 VT, I had the 24 Blue Burst with the 117, and so I just want to say that because I've actually ridden both. That's, you know, so they're both. So just keeping on the newer models, you know, because the CVO here is a 23, but the newer models, that 117 Road Glide it handles really well. It handles really well. I think it has. On that one, I only had like a stage one, that Bassani exhaust and air cleaner and the tune from Harley. Like it was all under warranty. And it always started, and mechanically it always started. It rode great ergonomically. It was a stock bar. Shoot, I did it with the stock seat and the Harley Davidson backrest, bro. And you know, when I did all the miles, and it was a very good design. It was really, really nice. And then what happened was it was good. But when I got back from that trip, I noticed it was all dinged up, and I was like, hey, let me just go. I actually went to go get my license plates, but I ended up getting another bike. It worked out really good. Wife was so happy about that. But on the CVO, Now, granted, there came some kind of body style. The CVO, yes, you know, I wanted the CVO ST, but I wanted the CVO luxuries, which is like the extra speakers and stuff like that. So that's why I went to the CVO, like just a regular CVO, because I already had the other fast bikes. So when the first time I got on the CVO and I rode it home, there's like swoopy curves like around Highway 99 and stuff, the bigger loop. So I was able to open it up. Man, it just handled. And I don't know if this is because of the inverted fork situation in combination with the different design. And technically, it's a bike that came out a year before the Blue Burst. It handled really good. I felt like I could beat everybody's ass around the corners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it just made me feel really confident. I was like, damn, this is stock. And then I'm listening to my music, this and that. And I really liked it. So I kind of say that to set the tone that on the previous models, like my turbos and stuff, and the 19 Mako CVO, also good bikes, also good things. But there's two things that if you ask me, hey, just mention just a couple of things, I'm going to tell you that the handling on these new ones are better. Stock for stock. Obviously, you can put on stuff, and like I've kind of tricked mine out. And a lot of people have as well. You can get it to where it's just, dude, it's great. Yeah. But par for par, stock for stock, the newer models, they beat it. Engine heat is a big deal, especially down here in the South. The engine heat management on these new bikes is far superior. You're getting E85 temperatures on regular 93 pump gas. And I know that for sure because I made a reel and I made a video where when you get the Harley Davidson tuner, it kind of has like the dyno jet where you can see the engine temperature, which is the rear O2 sensor, the rear sensor on the rear cylinder. And when I went to Austin to the BRL thing, right? I went there again, first time I ever went, and then I didn't know you can get on the track, so Harley Davidson was nice enough to kind of help us out. Everybody could do it, but they kind of helped us out, and we got on that track with that CVO. So I was like, oh, I'm on this track, I'm gonna open it up, and the bike was like exhaust, everything was totally stock. Man, I got on that bike and you know, on those routes, it's more of the skill versus the power, right? And you know, obviously there's people around first time going, man, I was going back and forth. The brakes felt good. The turning steering on a fully stock CVO felt good. I mean, I was passing some people out and granted, nobody was really racing with each other. I was just kind of racing with myself when I could. And I was like, wow, I'm really impressed with this bike, even more so. So then we drove straight back to Houston. This is all on the same day. And I was looking right before I got home, and the temperature was reading 220 or 230 degrees on the engine temperature.
That's not bad, yeah.
No, because of my CVO, and I got the jugs from Danny. You know, great product, great company, great guy. They definitely backed their stuff. Carrillo pistons in there, and I do have the ultra cool oil cooler running on 93 pump gas, and that one on like when I'm on the high when it's operating temperature, that one will go between 300 and 320. And that's fine for our bikes. So, dude, you're talking about 100 or so degrees less temperature-wise. I would say those two are definitely game changers in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, water cooling too. You know, there's water cooling. Like they finally figured out a way to do the water cooling that was aesthetically pleasing to look at. You know what I mean? When they used to do it in the lowers, it just radiator hoses everywhere. It just wasn't really the jam, you know?
It's just too wide of a looking bike, in my opinion.
And you're kind of married to the lowers, you know what I mean? And not everybody wants to have that situation. So, I feel like I've ridden the new one. I rode the new CVO a little bit in Sturgis and then a homie around here. The bikes feel lighter. I mean, it's a center of gravity's in a different spot, I believe. Yes. It has much more of an agile feeling to it. The response, like the way the new throttle is, it's very. It's a pro and a con in my opinion. So the pro is it's just snappy, like you feel it, like you're on it, right? But I don't know. I like the resistance of older. Like I can do the traditional fly by wire. It gives me enough resistance. I'm used to it. I kind of grew up with that, right? But even still, jumping on like the old throttle cable situation, the resistance you get, it's kind of like it just. Feedback. You're always feeling it. You're feeling like the bike tell you something. Yeah. And that's kind of one thing I did kind of notice. But also, granted, I was also on a cross country road trip on my FXR. All I've ridden is this bike, and now I'm all this with no gauges, nothing.
Yeah,
and now I'm on a bike that's telling me everything that's going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? And so it was kind of a culture shock real quick on that bike as it is. But
no, the weight is the feeling, all of it, probably with the handling is different. But also I like the modes, the rain mode, the sport mode, on this one, I just keep it on road mode, and it's fine. Every now and then when I want to open it up. But in terms of the performance of the VVT, it reminds me a lot of the turbo. And not that it's just as fast as the turbo bike I got, but the thing about the turbo dynos, once it's built, and tuned well, usually around 2,500 RPM, you're pretty much at your max torque. And it's just going to be a straight line that goes across till your cam gives out. Yeah. Or your 6,000 or whatever RPMs, and then that's it. By that time, your horsepower meets you probably at 4K, and it just goes up. But it's very linear. It's very like up, and just you got it all. Which is why, with the kind of like the dyno charge, you see the kind of the dip down or just a little bit dip on the turbo. You just go and it's just like all power. The entire, like, it doesn't change. So the faster you go. Mm-hmm. The more you feel like, oh my God, this bike is I need to, your heart starts pumping.
Yeah.
You get very, very, you're like, okay, I got to respect this motorcycle, With the VVT, it's a similar feeling. And my understanding is how the VVT works is very similar to how I explained the turbo. The power essentially goes up and kind of stays. And of course, it's stock Harley cam. And then it'll drop. But the whole time you're on it, it's linear. As linear as possible, right? But it's linear and whatever. And I was like, oh, shoot. That's what I noticed, the similarities within the VVTs.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you get the right tuner, the right, combination cam and all that stuff. It goes so you could get the same thing. But from out the box, brother, you can't. I was trying to race some guys on the stock CVO with the stock exhaust and everything just to see where the bike is. Because, everybody's fast until you race somebody.
Yeah.
And, they got me, but they didn't get me. Gap is, when the bike passes you, but it was right there.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh?
It's got potential, yeah.
Yeah. It definitely has. But I know Thundermax is coming out with their VVT tuner here pretty soon. So I'm excited to see what that's like.
Yeah.
And whatever. So I think I don't know. Is yet to see. We don't know. I don't know the data, but I think if you have because you can get your 121 CVO ST and then your 121 VVT, and this one will get them because of the weight. But I'm curious if you just have it, because if you put a Thundermax in a stock 121 VVT, they're getting like between 140 and 145 horsepower in torque, just with the Thundermax stock. You just everything.
Yeah.
Maybe a 2-in-1 exhaust, but I mean stock. Same air cleaner. Yeah. I'm curious what the result will be with these guys, and even if it's the same number, I wonder, because of the VVT just being so linear, if it'll beat it. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But it's all around, they're good bikes. And then like the 117s. Let's go back to the 117s. You do a stage 2 on those bikes, you're getting pre-131 Harley Davidson warranty horsepower and then some. They're getting the 121s with a stage 2 Thundermax tuner. They're getting, I don't know, between 135, 137, 134 horsepower and about the same in torque. When I got my 131 from Harley under the Harley Davidson warranty and all that good stuff, I was getting 125 horsepower and like 130, 130 torque. So now you got an engine that's smaller, that's getting under warranty. Now, granted, you could put a cam and those 130s getting 150. Yeah. But I'm like, and it's so inexpensive. And then, like you said, the bikes are lighter. So essentially, you get the best bang for your buck like that.
Yeah. So when I did my 131s, I would always, obviously, running Thundermax on it, we were getting more horsepower and torque out of, having an aftermarket tuner than not Harley's. So I was getting like 136, 146 out of mine.
Dude.
On both two different ones that I had. Yeah.
No, and so I just say, what I was going to say was also I want to add that a lot of people, I know some 131s weren't the best out there and people had said or whatever, but my personal experience, which is probably similar to yours, is the 131 kit that came out back then I've never had a problem with it when I had it by itself. Mm-hmm. And even now that, granted, Trask tore the engine apart and put it together, but those heads are your stock 131 stage 4 heads, mm-hmm. Different valves and springs, but and the jugs, the pistons, they're the 131 kit, So I just say that because those 131 crate engines, and I don't have an experience with the 135s, But if it's the same like the 131s, they're a really good engine.
Yeah,
They
I thought they were.
Did you have any issues with your 131s?
I never had any issues. I mean, they ran a little hot, like we were just already talking about with those. Just the way that those cylinders, like the rear cylinder was the head temp thing. So maybe it was hotter than it normally. I don't know what the hell. I've heard all these things, and I try not to let it swindle my judgment too much. You know what I'm saying?
But it never left you stranded.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what counts.
Well, I'm interested in these 117 high outputs, like what they're putting in the new lowrider STs, and I think another model, I forget which one, but I've heard that those things are getting stupid numbers with a cam and some basic bolt-ons.
Yeah. No, so I think it's the 117 on the roller guide street lights, but on those. Could be wrong, but I think that's when the HO comes out because you're water cooled and you get a little bit more power.
Yeah, on the new ST lowriders, it has the high output motor. Yeah. But I don't know about the. I was really into. I thought that I wanted another bagger, and that was kind of where my head was at for the longest. And then, like I said, I don't know why I'm kind of more drawn to the ST now again, like the lowrider.
It's a good bike, man. Yeah. It's not as big, it's not as wide, it's not as heavy. You still got bags. You still got the fairing in the front, and now you can buy a whole speaker system if you want some sound. It's a hard, and then the price point is really good as well. I mean, you're 10 grand less, more power, lighter, easier to handle. It's just it's a definitely. If you wanted a bagger but not the big thing, ST would be the way to go. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know what I want to do. Like I said, I got a couple projects right now. They're old.
Well, just throw some of those new fairings on there.
Yeah. I thought about it. Like I definitely the FXR that's down there that I'm working on now will definitely have some sort of fairing on it. Whether it's going to be an FXR fairing or an ST fairing or just a traditional T Sport is kind of on the fence right now. But I want something that's a little bit more modern that I can hop on and have place to put all my shit, and I have to put a sissy bar on it, and that's kind of like the goal with that bike. But yeah. I mean, I have a full RT, like the bags. Matt's got the fairing and the lowers, and part of me was wanting to go that direction with it, but then the part of me that has to paint it and do all that's looking at all this work, and I'm like, I don't know if I really got time for all that. And
you see, you're in your head because you know what it takes.
Yeah.
And you're like, if I do this, then is that, then is that.
And I haven't built a full fairing FXR in quite a long time. And the last one I did was pretty wild. And so having to, I feel like I got to do something better than that. And I'm like, fuck, that was a lot of work. And so that's why I'm looking at that as if I go that direction, I kind of want it subtle and simple. And I don't know, man. It's just try not to get in my head too much about it right now. I still got a lot of other things to do beforehand. But so how many bikes do you still have right now? The three. So you have the
the turbo bike, which is getting a revamp, and then the Mako Shark CVO, and then my 121 or 2023 CVO. So I got three.
So the turbo bike's the red one, right?
Yeah, red with the carbon.
Yeah,
and all that stuff. Excellent bike, man. Like I was telling you, I broke the swing arm from the previous swing arm I had. I broke the bushings for the swing arm, and apparently it's very hard to do. But I'm just guessing. I mean, when I'm on that bike, I'm on it. Like I open it up, and I definitely don't baby it, and I definitely don't try to blow it or anything like that. Unfortunately, it hasn't.
Yeah.
But I definitely take care of my engine, and what I mean by taking care of the engine is changing my oil.
Yeah.
That's it. $100, $120 worth of oil, and I change it. So I change it by smell sometimes, depending, and I'll change it by sight. Like if it's too dark, then I'll change it. I know it might be whatever, but it's my baby. It has a lot of power.
Yeah.
And essentially, I'm doing what Trash recommended for me to do to take care of the bike.
Yeah.
That engine build. So, but yeah, that's there. And then the Mako is also fast, but not as fast as the turbo, but it's still a fast bike. Recently I changed out the tires to Metro Cruise Tech, and I'm very happy I did. I actually, for racing purposes, I'll run the tire at 35 PSI. Sometimes I dip it down to 20, depending what's going on, just to get the fatter, when you grip and you go.
Yeah.
and that's it. But in terms of road glides, we're talking about bikes. I think the best road glide models of the previous models, I have the 22 turbo, and then I think it's the 19. I think it's the 19 because you could still get. I like hydraulic clutches.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Bear in mind, right? Throw a little recluse in there and a little other stuff or whatever. I mean, that's the softest clutch. That's GX6R broken in type of clutch.
Yeah.
And it just goes. And then I got the Baker transmission in it, where neutral's all the way down.
Yeah.
So when I pop those gears, and honestly, I don't even use the clutch when I'm past second gear. I just boom, and then I just crunch them. But I think that's the best bike. Excuse me. It wasn't like when the 17s came out. I think the 17s first came out with the M8, but it wasn't like the other ones that were just a little bit more expensive when they got rid of the cable or went to cable. I think that's the better bike, but I still think that these newer bikes are superior than those and lighter.
Yeah. I want to say because I had a 20, so I had a 19 and a 20, and my 20 still had a hydraulic clutch, but they did phase them out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the 17s had the oil pump issues and the sumping issues, and then 18 was kind of getting it solved, and 19 it was like a good run. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then and then they got rid of the clutch and went back to cable, and then they started you wouldn't get the heel toe shifter anymore. It's like little things they would pull off just to kind of save some money.
Yeah.
I think they even started pulling the rear pegs off the bikes.
No, well they did on the CVOSTs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it is what it is. I feel like if you should still have it should still come on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you take it off, not does not come with it.
Exactly, but I don't know. It's
no, but yeah, I think I'm just so the turbo I actually converted it to hydraulic clutch.
Yeah.
And but I got the thing is, it's soft. But I have 6 red springs with the Evolution clutch and Evolution Industries clutch.
Yeah.
Man, that clutch, bro. I know there's other clutches out there. It's not the cheapest, but man, it grips all the time. Even when you downshift, and I've learned that the wrong way.
Yeah.
I'm doing my let go of the clutch. It grips. You're getting whatever power you have. You're getting it with that clutch.
That's cool.
But it's $1,500.
Fuck.
Yeah, but you don't. But it's a straight replacement. You just take yours on and just put it on there, so you don't have to, press or drill or anything like that. You just military discount. You get in there 10%, so it makes it easier. But man, it's still not cheap.
Yeah, that helps. What so with all the you're still pushing the YouTube and stuff what's some of that kind of world been, especially with the way that fucking algorithms change every other day? How has it been for you trying to continue to push your YouTube channel and whatnot?
It's been a journey and it's been difficult. I'll tell you this: don't open a YouTube channel think you're gonna make money right away unless you have certain features. But I don't have those features. Mm-hmm. But it's I want to say it's uphill and downhill, right? Because But one thing, let me just start by saying that the only reason I started this YouTube channel was because of that turbo bike that I had. Mm-hmm. But I did it with the mentality of, once you've kind of been in a difficult life and death situation, just combat in general, I kind of feel that you kind of see things just very clear on what your purpose is to a certain degree. So I knew it was going to be out there. I knew people were going to see it. I don't know, whatever. But it was really like, if I pass tomorrow, I have that for my kids and my family and myself and friends. And I really saw it as that versus I have all these pictures on these phones.
Kind of like a diary.
Yeah, to a certain degree. So it was more for me, right? But then people started watching, people started whatever. And then certain companies started reaching out, and I was like, oh, this is cool, and it just kind of evolved from that. But that was the core, and that's still the core of it now, in my opinion, right? Like these builds and stuff, these are just builds that I wanted to do. It's not that, if you get this new product or whatever, it's gonna come to market. They're just all things that I wanted. I'm just kind of putting. The challenge is, though, I will say this, that the challenge is to show it without sounding, redundant, without sounding like you don't like it or without whatever. Because just like I was looking at other people on YouTube, beforehand to, teach me how to install a ceiling fan,
Yeah.
I just kind of was like, well, if anybody runs into this, I'm not an expert, but I'll just show you.
Yeah.
What I find out if you find it useful, cool. So that's how I started. But and then until today, it is what it is. But it's and then I'm a family guy like most of us guys, right? Like we, with the kids, my oldest, fortunately, got out the Marine Corps nice and safe, and now he's in pilot school. So that's a whole other chapter. So last year was I didn't post much last year, and I didn't really go many places last year. It was just really focused on my children's transition. My oldest from the Marine Corps getting out here. And
because you brought him to Born Free Texas. He was, I was going to ask you how, because he's into the photography and all that type of stuff as well, right?
Yeah, he's into that as well. He's on his Instagram, but now he started that. The thing is, just real brief. He got accepted to University of Houston to the engineering college. Great, awesome, right?
Yeah.
The day before orientation, he says, "Dad, I don't know if I want to do this." I was like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do?" He's like, "I don't know if I want to be in an office doing this stuff." I was like, "Okay, you're a young guy." I was like, "What do you want to do?" He's like, "I really miss flying." I was like, "Well, shoot, son, you got to look him into, you got to use military benefits. You got to do that." He's like, "All right, cool." Within a couple of weeks, he had a whole plan down, and now the plan is to be a commercial airline pilot.
Nice.
But it's a whole process, bro, which personally, I'm super happy seeing him go through this, because if every pilot goes through this, they're pretty aware of what's going on. You know what I mean?
You got to get a bunch of flight hours, right?
So to be a commercial airline pilot, I should say, you need 1,500 flight hours. His flight hours as a crew chief for the Marine Corps doesn't come over, so he's starting from like scratch.
Yeah,
but he's also young. This is when you got to do it. Not when you're 47, 46. You know what I'm saying? And of course with support, but you need that many hours, and this, you have to get your certain certifications, and then once you have all that, then certain airplane certifications. So it's a whole process. So all you airline pilots and flight attendants, like, my respects. I'm just happy you went through, because imagine if we were like, we can get a pilot license within a week.
Get it at DeVry or whatever.
Oh, DeVry. And then my little girl, man, she's 13, she's growing up, and then youngest Brody is 3. So I got all spectrum. So I was just really, we always are focused on our children, right? And everything. So I was just really focused on that. And then, Daytona for me was really like my first kind of vloggy style. So I kind of changed the format to where I always wanted to and probably just with your paint jobs, you always want them to flow. You don't know how it's going to work out, but you just want it to flow, right? You have an idea, you have a thing, you think about it, you lose some sleep over it, but you just, at the end, you just want it to flow, right? So I've always wanted to do that, but of course, when you start anything, with no experience, you have no experience. And I feel like Daytona, like my vlogging videos and stuff, when I say Daytona, but Florida, Miami, and just the whole thing, I think it was a very life kind of vloggy thing with all the motorcycle stuff. And I really enjoyed doing that, and because it didn't cost me any work. It was just natural, not the other stuff was natural, but you have to think, what about this shot? What about that shot? But I will say with the experience, my editing time has gone down substantially, because at least now I have more of an eye of what I want to look for. Whether I use it or not, it might be 2 seconds of B-roll, intro, middle, or out, or between, going from one place to another. I might not even use it, but at least I have it. But I'm not filming the entire thing, because there's really no need, But you don't know that until you kind of whatever. So therefore, your editing is it's cut in half. And it's just really enjoyable, because editing is like one of those things, like on the YouTube thing that, you're like, you try this new thing, it's like, holy crap, it worked. It was pretty cool, Like, your editing, I think is awesome. I think it's on point, but I know it takes time to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you cut this. I could see where you kind of whatever. And it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And the subtleness, the putting the camera here, the walking by, the noise, the sound, just everything that goes there. So the editing to me is really enjoyable, but that's simply because it's a challenge. Just like my 1,600 miles in one day.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's come along. I feel it's just kind of, doing, it's kind of progressing with my life, and we'll just see where it goes from here.
Yeah, it seems like you're having fun though doing it.
That's yeah.
I think I was watching some of the Arizona ones you had put out last couple of days, and it's like you're just out there having fun, especially with your old lady in there and everything. So
yeah, she's amazing, man. You've met her. She definitely has my back. She definitely has my back, and no, so it's going well, man.
Yeah, I think when we went to the Polar ride, like you were there, and I thought it was pretty cool how you were asking that question to everybody throughout it, because it's like, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people, myself included, like you don't know what to say. You don't know what kind of words to put into it.
Yeah.
And so like having a couple questions to kind of bop around and ask and just get some people, like that was pretty genius in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you.
And, because like when I look at what I captured for that event, like there's really not a lot of words. It's more just like I tried to show what we're doing, which at the end of that video, I'm like, man, all I did was just show everybody that we're alcoholics, basically.
I didn't get that,
but because that's the other weird thing I guess about YouTube is that if I want to accurately or realistically depict like this world that I'm a part of, like my unique perspective, then there is alcohol. We are going there and having a drink. We are going to a camp out or a nitty gritty and just raging, and we're going to go ride a couple days and we're going to do this. And like, that's the truth. That's like what it is. It's like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to try to shy away from like the reality of what at least me and the people I'm around do. Not that we're all, everywhere we go, we're just drunk driving and everything like that. But,
it's our life, dude. We're having fun.
Yeah.
It's our life to live and ours to judge. Nobody else.
Exactly. Like we were talking downstairs, like I have like 6 or 7 videos that are filmed that every time, I don't know if you're like this, I definitely am, where starting the editing is harder than anything else for me.
I
like
agree.
The first 10 minutes of starting to chop a video up and get the flow rolling, that is the only hump that I have in a video. And then the rest is just however long I want to spend on it.
You can just flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think I'm saying the same thing you are, but for me, it's like the whole series of Miami, of Florida. And then I got one more coming out for Arizona. But for me, it's like, I try to make it towards like, hey, this is the intro, whatever. And then this whole thing. And then the next video, it's this. But you have to have the filming done the day afterwards, obviously, to get it. So your video is going to be 2 or even 3 days behind, depending on Wi-Fi connectivity, by the way, which is the whole thing. Yeah. But and then kind of keeping that kind of going is like, okay, but you have like all of this footage. It's all a good time. Everything's it's going to be an attention grabber, but you don't want to put it all in the front, right? So you 2 seconds here, 3 seconds here, 1, 4, like it just depends. And then you don't want to make that intro 30 minutes or a minute long, 30 seconds or a minute long. And I know everybody's watching, they might think, these guys are talking about seconds, but look back and see how long your average reel is, your average YouTube intro is, like in terms of putting stuff in there. So, but what does it take to do that? You got to get this segment down.
Yeah.
And then look through it. You got to get this segment down and then look through it. And then this one and then this one and then do that. And then you finally do that. And then you finally get your intro. And then what I run into is you go through the whole thing. It's like, damn, this is money. Damn, I want to put it in the front. Yeah. Great. Let me chop it up, duplicate it, put it over here. But then guess what? It throws off all your text, your sounds, your sound effects off, and you have to go back. So it's like, oh my God, but I really want it because once you post it, you can't go back.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a big problem I have even to this day, And then even like the voiceover. Sometimes I'm writing, like I was writing in Arizona. I was like, this is a perfect voiceover place, going through the desert. I mean, we're in the desert. We're out here, with friends having a good time and everything. But it just didn't flow with the video.
Yeah, yeah.
So you put a song.
Yeah, I'm struggling with I don't really know how to describe it. I have like a few different styles. Like I have this chopper video that I'm working on for the chopper build. I want it to be a little more cinematic, if you will, because we shot all that with the big cameras. Then I got like I did the DJI Action 5 Pro, like what you were just using downstairs, for Polaroid, and I also did nitty gritty with that. And I hadn't even looked at nitty gritty footage. That's kind of like, I feel like I owe these other videos that's been sitting on the shelf for 2 months. And it's nothing time. Like if I don't get a video out for nitty gritty for 2 more months, I don't give a fuck, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not, I've stopped trying to feed an algorithm and to live within their means. I'm like, look, I want to create something. It's not going to help me out, but at least I got the work done. It's out there. And if people find it, hopefully they will, whatever. But I like the idea of still playing with ideas of how to structure videos. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know that I would say that I have a style yet, because I feel like every time I do, when I'm trying something different, to find something that feels repeatable, but also not repetitive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the podcast, like when I started that, when I got in like the different iterations of it, if I can't repeat it, it gets harder to keep it consistent, right? And so that's where I'm running into with YouTube videos is the consistency is difficult because every one feels like it needs to be told in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to learn how to do things. And you seem resourceful like I am. Like I'll have like an idea, like I want to do this thing I saw once. Now I got to go search how to do it. And so I got one screen up teaching me how to do this thing on YouTube, and then the Premiere over here, and I'm editing and learning how to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'll fuck around and forget how I did it.
And then watch
the
the
next
again.
video, and it's like I got to figure out how to do that again. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that happens when people have when YouTube's not your main, right? YouTube is we would love to do it 100% and just have fun and just but that's just not our reality, you know. And naturally, you're gonna forget. Oh, was it this keystroke? Was it that keystroke? Was it that? And then you do it, and then it doesn't work out how we did the first time, which is even more frustrating, I think. But no, I agree with you. I was. It's like when you get an engine build or a paint job, everybody's going to give you a whole different, like we were talking, everybody's going to give you their opinion and do this, don't do that. You know, you want a counterbalancer, you don't want a counterbalancer, you know, whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what actually possible within your skill set. And your skill set's going to get better, right?
Yeah,
but in that moment, it's either there or it's not.
Yeah.
And I think I had to realize that, you know, it's like, I see these that are just, and they're usually the European videos that are just very nice. I was like, man, like I could literally get this, copy it, and still mess it up. You know what I mean? Like it's just so good.
Yeah.
But it just, you know, I see that, so I try to do that, but it's just tough. But to the algorithm, I see my analytics, and I say, because people are like, well, you gotta look at your analytics and post it at this time frame and not this time frame, whatever. And I don't think it's worked for me at all, to be honest, when I posted a certain thing. So now, and Daytona, the Florida Daytona trip, and even the ones that I just posted for Arizona Bike Week, I just posted them whenever the video was ready.
Yeah.
Whether it was ready in 2 days or 1 day or 1 week, because I would have them ready and I would post them. Oh, the algorithm said that on Sundays at this time it's good, or Mondays or Wednesdays. I posted and it just does okay.
Yeah.
But I've just been posting randomly, and it could be in the morning, it could be the afternoon, whenever I'm done or whenever it's uploaded to Wi-Fi, and I have my little tags and all that, and thumbnail and description and everything that goes in there. And they've been doing pretty well. I mean, for me, for me, they've been doing pretty well. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't listen to this analytics thing, you know?
I feel like you get trapped in it. Like, you know, you're what you feel good about, but that doesn't get reflected in those numbers. And then you get, you don't want to chase that. Yeah. I personally think that the algorithm shit is stripping away creativity and individuality from people, because to make the kind of thumbnail that the world wants you to have, it becomes that Mr. Beast stuff, which that's not me. That's not the way I want to present my product or my thing to the world. And when you think about the classic of like logo design for like a McDonald's or this or that or Circuit C, that's a deep cut. Best Buy, things like that. Like they have their branding in the way that they want to present themselves to the world. And if you wanted to be taken as a more serious, or maybe not serious, but like a more premium thing, then you're not using colors that are associated with silly. You're not using thing like you're trying to show a quality photograph of like a depiction of what's going on in this video, not a bunch of highlighted people going, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's It's nothing wrong with it. It's everybody's style. It's just I don't want to have to do that to be relative or relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
but I'm just an old man bitching about the way things are going nowadays. And so it's, it is what it is. But
yeah. And Instagram, right, is a whole other thing, right? Like last year, I will say I dipped very hard into Instagram. With little things here or there, just kind of actually editing for Instagram versus just posting, just random, and that seemed to have done that reaches like a different audience, I think.
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna have time to watch a 5-minute YouTube or 25-minute YouTube video.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a whole different market there that I didn't realize years ago till probably just recently, like I said. But I really kind of focused on learning certain editing for that stuff or whatever, and sort of quality stuff, because you see these reels from the factory companies, and it's like, man, that's a hell of a reel, but dude, that reel cost them about, I don't know, $5,000 in equipment and time and editing and this and that. Like, they could get you some good ones, but I mean, I don't know if I would say I would love to do that, but it's just very tough. And of course, with the equipment, I mean, the equipment is it costs a lot of money, dude.
Yeah.
And there's always new stuff coming out that you want to like, oh, maybe I need to mics.
Yeah.
Mics is huge. Getting your voice portrayed or the sound of the bike.
Yeah.
Or the rally or something. But what sucks is copyright violations. When you go to these rallies, everybody's playing music. So.
Yep. Yeah, we try to, like we did Nitty Gritty, we tried to keep that a little bit mitigated to the point where, I'm trying to promote people to do more YouTube, or, people feel like they have that creative bug, then maybe it's a thing.
Just do it.
The more of us that are doing it around each other, the more we can all help each other. You know what I'm saying? So,
for sure.
But yeah, there's just it's a strange one, right? Like, how would I word it? I don't know. Like I get kind of in my head too much, like I've had gear acquisition syndrome for a couple of years where I've always felt like I needed to get another tool to be able to do the job to the level that I think I want. And it's only in the last like year and a half that I've been really stringent on like, don't like, I would literally go and meet YouTubers and people that do stuff that I'm trying to become. And they're doing it on fucking a 10-year-old GoPro. They're doing it on a Canon 5D Mark II.
They're just doing this right here.
You know what I'm saying?
Right here.
So it's like it just illuminated to me that, it's kind of like you already know this, but you didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
It's just like everything. You want to think that buying something will solve a problem, that, just anything. Buying something will solve a problem. I wish I could buy a better body. You know what I mean? I wish I could just buy something and then not have to do the work.
Yeah.
Or buy this thing and I don't have to do the work to learn how to use it properly or to the extent of what it's capable of, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the truth is, like, if you just stick with it and take care of it and run it, and you'll master that tool, and you won't have to buy something new all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's like I was mentioning earlier. It's like I quickly realized the skill set level I'm at. I'm not at those very nice cinematic, you know, things. I would love it. I even if I had the equipment, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of planning, man.
It is.
So
with my wife going, because usually I go to these rallies and she's a soldier staying at the house with the kids and doing all the house duty stuff. But what's nice about going this time is because she'll call me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" It's like, "Oh, it's going good." So I explain, "Hey, I'm doing good, but I'm in my thoughts. Where am I gonna put this in? Is this section just gonna be B-roll or whatever?" So a lot of times, and then you don't want to focus too much on the shot that you're not having a good time there with your friends and stuff. So that's a big struggle. So I say that because now that my wife went, she's like, "Okay, I see it. You're here, but you're here, right? You're like trying to, whatever." And it's all really, to me, just trying to share stuff in a viewable, portrayable way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In reality, my life's pretty simple. Go to work, take care of the kids, wife home, and that's it. There's nothing in between. It's the same thing.
Yes.
So I haven't changed my phone number in, I don't know, 20 years. Like my life is very simple.
Yeah.
Very basic. And like that by design, of course. But so she's like, "Okay, I get it." So she'll call when she's not with me. It's like, "Hey, how's it going?" It's like, "Yeah." And And she's like, yeah, but if you're there already, you're like, you can't complain being in Miami. You can't. I was like, I'm not complaining, but I'm trying to get it because like, it's just the thought process because once that moment is gone, it's gone.
Yeah,
like you can't.
Hey, do that again.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's done, bro. It's done. It's done. So you're kind of like, okay, well, I catch it. So with her going with me, she's like, okay, I get it. I see where you're literally where your head's at. Because you have to, you just do your best.
Yeah.
But then it's like there's also like we were talking last time I was here. I'm very cautious of like not recording while other people are talking and having those conversations in my videos when they were supposed to be private.
Yeah.
So I just don't even do it. I just let it go because I'm not gonna be that guy. Hey, by the way, you recorded me saying this about this, whether it's good or bad, but it's just not for the whole world to hear. It was a private conversation.
Be a purpose. Like,
you know what I mean?
That conversation could have so much other things going on that has nothing to do with like what your video's about.
Yeah. And then it's just this whole thing.
I'm very shy with my camera. Unless I've had a couple drinks and then I'm better. But for the most part, like when it comes to photography, like I'm not running around like just snapping stuff, especially at events. Like I get a little more shy at events because, and my excuse is, it's a good excuse, but it's also like bullshit. If we want to be real, my excuse why I don't really pull my camera out a lot at a Nitty Gritty or Born Free Texas is that like everybody else's camera's out. What
are you bringing?
What am I getting? What am I going to shoot that they're not already shooting? And for me to go find that unique perspective, I have to really like tunnel vision, focus in on the event. And then I'm taken out of my part of what I'm doing at this event, running a vendor space, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But then also like just in other settings, like I'd always be really shy with the camera, especially around just people. Like I know you, but I don't know you that well enough to just be popping photos off and stuff. And my wife told me a long time ago, she says, we all appreciate it, right?
It's true.
And I'm like, oh, man, I didn't really think about that. Like, because everybody likes the photos when they're done, but you don't think about that when you're shooting it. You think like, man, I feel like I'm in everybody's way or, whatever I get in my head and stuff like that. But, and I try to think about that when I'm trying to shoot like a video. Like, I feel like a little bit of a, dork running around with a camera like, hey guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like the people that are in the video, like they appreciate seeing themselves in videos. Like I'm not saying it's an arrogance or a narcissistic thing. It's just like, oh shit, that's cool. I'm on fucking TV right now. In some form or fashion, Well,
at that place, like I said, once the moment is gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So no, but no, I agree with you. I've gotten better not being as shy. Like even with the just
the
holding the
selfie
camera.
sticks a lot, right?
Yeah. Like it's just
it helps, but it's like it's way out there.
Yeah, it's way out there and it's cliche-ish.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, there's this dude over here. But again, it's your video, whatever you're comfortable with. But going back to what I started saying, it's like I'm very respectful of and I try my very best to be aware of my surroundings. Like, and there's also a time and a place, bro. There's also a time and a place. If everybody's having a good time, that's it. You could still record, but you can cut out the sound. Yeah. And then put some B-roll, some cool music.
Capture it,
just stuff like that. Slow it down, speed it up, whatever you want to do, But like, but stuff like that. But there's a way to do it, but I'm not going to do that. And I say that because there's a lot of people with the cameras that are just recording everything. It's like, bro, I wish you didn't record that. But it's on there. You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, I got a lot of things at Nitty Gritty that I can definitely use to my advantage at some point in time with some people. So
it's its own file. It's its own file. Yeah, but no, and stuff. And of course, you want people to be comfortable around you and stuff. Yeah. But
I think most people are comfortable because they understand that, like, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to put that video out of you, doing some stupid shit, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But yeah, it's just, I think that it kind of goes in line with my concept or my question about like what come first, the biker or the creator. So a lot of times I feel like the creator comes into the biker world and looks for the bikes to exploit versus when you're into the motorcycles and all this stuff, then you start to want to share it. Like you learn how to become the creator. You know what I mean? So it's like if I take all my skills with photos and, whatever video, whatever, and I just looked for some kind of scene or thing to go be the thing in, that's like, to me, the outside. It's like the opposite of what I think that it should be. You know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think being the biker and then the creator is harder though.
It is harder, yeah, because you have to
know?
learn how to do all that other stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into that into that stuff. But I will say I said within getting into the weeds, I do say editing that stuff is even tougher, especially if you're OCD or very micromanaging, or you just want really good. You want them all to be the best, and stuff. But yeah, like when you interviewed Cruzy and them over in Austin, you know, he was saying, and it's true, like they're at a different level, obviously, but he was saying, oh, you got these keywords and blah, blah, and nothing happens, you know, and it goes to your point that we're talking about the algorithm is really, really hard to get. But besides that, like you do photographs, you know, the ISOs, you know, certain apertures, you certain things or whatever. Same thing goes with the 60 frames per second, 30, you know, 20 or 100, 240, but then, you know, it's like negative 1080p or whatever it is, 720. Yeah. So you have to kind of be cognizant of that and flow with it. And changing the settings on your camera on the fly is also very tough.
Yeah. And knowing what you want to get into and all that type. I found it easy. Like when I first started doing some of the video vlog, if you will, stuff, I did it all with like the Canon R5, which is a full frame, you know, mirrorless camera. And I had a GoPro. I didn't use it as much. And I found it easier to navigate that camera because I already messed with it all. It had a dial for all those functions, as opposed to the action cameras are all in like a file or they're in a folder on a file that you got to kind of like swipe to or whatever. And so it gets kind of hard. You're like little buttons, you're swiping over this, that, you know, trying to adjust. The DJI that like you and now I have as well, I found that to be a little bit easier. I set profiles on it. So like, okay, nighttime, if we're just doing normal vlogging, bam. If I'm riding, I'll probably shoot it at like 60 frames a second. If I'm just walking around, daytime vlog, bam, got that as well.
Yeah.
After you came here last time, you had kind of convinced both, you know, myself and I think Devin has ended up doing it as well. We got the Pocket 3.
Yeah.
But I've struggled to use that on like I think it's a great camera, but I haven't been able to effectively use it while riding or doing stuff. Because right after you said something, then I did a road trip and I was sitting down with Josh and them from Two Lane Life, and he was telling me he started using that. It's like, fuck it, I'm gonna get it. And then I bought it, and then me and gimbals don't do well together. You know what I'm saying? I struggle with the gimbal process.
That camera is not a moto vlogging camera. That's like you get off your bike, now you grab that camera.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's what that camera is. And I don't know if that's the one I used at the Polaroid. I think it was. I don't know if it was that one, or if I had the. I don't know if it was that one, because the thing about, I would love to have these bigger cameras and they're more capable and stuff like that, but I need things to fit in the saddlebag. Worst case, King Tour pack or my bag, and I need them to be accessible and fast and be charged. Yeah, those are my main criterias, and those fill it in. But where the Pocket 3 comes in, without a doubt, is the rolling shots. You put an ND filter, you double the ISO, you do your not the color, but for the lighting and stuff, the brightness, you get all that, bro. You're gonna have the road look like silk, and you just rolling, and you slow it down a little bit. Oh, dude, that's where it's at, and you can do it yourself. So. There's one, and I just haven't had time to post on that stuff. But there's a mount you just get. You suction cup it to your car. You connect the app to your phone. You can see yourself. You track your bike, and you just go. And then you can left lane, right lane, speed up, slow down, this and that, whatever. You know, get it up going under an overpass or a turn or a curvy thing, and it's money. Money without having to need all that stuff. Obviously, if you have somebody in the car that can do that for you, it's cool, but essentially it'll track you.
Yeah, but that thing's tracking so well, you know.
It's very tough to beat
keeping you centered.
Yeah. And if you mess up the shot, okay, you know, just do it again. You're already on. So that's, you know, put a little stabilizer on it, because those has a gimbal, but you need the stabilizer for that stuff. And I think the arm on Amazon is $150. Very
Yeah.
inexpensive. It avoids the, when you walk and people,
Yeah.
you see those videos. If you had that, it just avoids all that because it avoids it in the whole car, like with the bumps and everything. But that for the rolling shots, all day, all freaking day, all day.
Yeah. I think that once I get a few of these little these backlogged videos kind of rolling, I still have the whole video thing from when I went to Indian too and rode those bikes that I need to put out.
Dude, that was pretty cool, man. That was pretty cool.
It was a cool experience, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it really was.
I saw you out there. I was like, I thought he didn't like Indians, but hey, every day is a new day.
Yeah, I mean, I historically haven't cared for them, but
I hear they're good bikes. I haven't ridden one.
yeah, I mean, it was a fun.
Bikes.
It was. I still don't even know how to describe it. That's
Really?
why I haven't really put it out there because I think that yeah, I could probably say some words that I think people can identify with about what they probably feel, but I don't know how to describe like what it is about it that like why. Okay, the thing is, like, I could tell you that it was a great ride. Everything was good. I actually enjoyed the day riding the bikes. They were fast as hell. It had a lot of cool features that I dig. I actually like the styling. It took a while to grow on me, but after riding next to a couple of them and being on it, like, I was able to really focus in on the different angles of it. But I don't know how to explain why I wouldn't buy one.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how to explain that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if I'm going to do a video on it, I need to understand that in a way to share with somebody, because then it just sounds childish, like, oh, because I'm a Harley guy. What does that mean? You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know. I've asked the question, like, what is it like? Why have I never been, motivated to walk into a Indian dealership?
Maybe the style, the design.
I don't know.
Network. It could be there's not that many Indian dealerships compared to Harley.
So, I mean, there's like all these little questions I'm asking myself, and I'm looking for those answers to be able to give some kind of, because every other person there did an amazing job with all the features and the specs. And I know that's all Indian wants. Hey, look, just ride the bike, tell the world what you think about it. Well, I'm trying to tell my unique perspective, but I'm trying to understand it right now. And because it's not something I don't want to shit on the brand, because I actually did enjoy the bikes. And I actually did envision a cool paint job and maybe a way of fixing one up. But would I go buy one and do it on my own dime? I don't think that I could do that. I don't think I would. I don't, if I was maybe had more money, I probably would consider it. But yeah, so it's like, I want to be, just want to do it justice. And I haven't figured out how to do that. Now, I will say that I learned a lot being on that trip and being around those other guys. Like, I'm sure you learned a lot, like, doing that ride with Sandoval. Which actually, tell me a little bit about that whole experience.
Man, it was that whole ride. So we ended up, I think we did kind of the similar, but I came from Houston, I went from Houston. But Adam, I mean, it was a good time all around. So
how long did you spend on the road with Adam on that?
The entire time. It was
the
like
convoy thing?
Yeah, the entire, it was like 5 weeks long, all over the country. But I started my journey in Houston, and I went from Houston in the 24 Blue Burst. I went from there essentially to Niagara Falls in a day and a half.
Damn. That's a rip.
That was a rip, and it was during remember, it was Veterans Day, because I made something on Instagram for that. It was good, and I'll give it to you in different kind of categories. The riding was amazing, and it was challenging, but it was the first time I've ever ridden that many miles, not consistently, because I knocked those out, but for that time frame.
Yeah.
Hotel bagging up. But let me kind of, and remind me if I forget, the categories I'll probably start off with is like the rides, the creator, the moto vlog guy. And then I guess the overall experience with all the people, right? So the rides, I mean, we went, people say that Texas gets hot, but brother, going through Nashville, Tennessee, it's hot.
Yeah.
It is hot, bro. I would dare to say hotter than Houston in the summertime. It was hot. Now, maybe because it was drier, but sweat city in my helmet, bro.
Yeah.
It was hot. But anyways, But we went through Pennsylvania, beautiful roads in Pennsylvania. Virginia, the Carolinas, Tennessee obviously has beautiful ones. Then we went up to Wyoming, like all those places, all the Carolinas, all that stuff. We went to New York. We were trying to go to downtown New York, but the traffic was crazy and these bikes would have just overheat just sitting there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was an executive call. All these dealerships we went to, and it was cool. But I tell you what, there is a different quality within dealerships. I'll tell you that. Harley Davidson, is this overall brand, but the corporate, the dealerships, there's definitely different treatment and different environments and culture in each of these. Mm-hmm. Some are good, some are bad. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. That was just my experience, right? The people that I met, the people that follow Adam, they were all great time, good time and stuff like that. Glacier, I've never been to Glacier Park. We swam in Glacier waters at McDonald Lake there, which was awesome. Yeah. Videoed that stuff for Adam and it was a great ride. The bike handled everything well, but the bike had a lot of electrical kind of little glitches going on with the rain. But besides that, mechanically it was sound. Adam himself, he always took care of his team. I'll tell you that right now. He always took care of his team. There was, as an example, there was this one time that the hotels made an error on how many rooms he needed for his team, and I was out on one, like they didn't have a room one time, and somebody else didn't have the room one time. So they're different occasions, and each time, and he's a busy guy handling all his business and stuff, and he would go and say, "Hey, is my team good?" And so he made some calls, he had to do whatever. And he took care of it, but he didn't rest until we were all good. Yeah. So that just speaks character for me, for guys like me. I saw how he handled people, being veterans or not, and the cause of it, and I was impressed. I was impressed with Adam all around, and the people there, the environment, everybody was just very giving, very very willing and stuff like that.
How was the days? Did they feel? Because sometimes you'd have 2 stops in a day, if not more. I'm not sure. I can't remember what Adam said about it, but how was that? Like the actual business side of the whole trip, as far as because you were on the media team for Adam on that Great American Convoy.
Yeah. So it was you have to like to ride. I'll just tell you that right now. Because one thing is we're just gonna go here, these 200-300 miles, and then at this dealership, and then another 200-300 miles, or 150, or even 50 miles. But those last 50 miles from all day and peopling and videoing and trying to see the shots and this and this and that, those 50 miles are long, And then you have to unpack your bike. Then for myself, you have to unpack all your electrical stuff, make sure it's all charged up the night before, this and that. Yeah. We got there at the hotels 9:30. We eat you're on the road, so you eat road food. Yeah, there was a few nights that we had some really nice steaks and stuff, but there were far and few in between. Not because we didn't want to, it was a time frame. Yeah. And then kick things up at 6 a.m. for another whatever, right? And just doing that consistently, that was challenging. That was challenging. Pam and Jay, the road captains, they were stellar, as well as their son Dalton, and then. So them, Adam, and myself were the only ones, unless I'm missing somebody, but no, I believe. There was Rick, a gentleman in a trike that also did the whole thing with us, and there was a few other people that were with us. I just can't remember their names, but there was a handful of people that actually did the entire thing, and finished it. And there was a lot of people that showed up and helped out throughout the stuff. But in terms of the ride and the day-to-day and the grind of it, I remember I've never ran in hot heat like this. The entire convoy, and sometimes the convoy was bigger, sometimes it was smaller. Going through Kansas at 124 heat index was tough. Yeah. You had to dig for that one. Mm-hmm. But how it was designed was after every hour you stop. Maybe hour and a half, maybe 50 minutes. But it was an hour 50 minutes. But that was the goal was every hour you stop. The distance and the stops determined that, but that was the goal. So it made it good, but also made the day longer. If you're used to ground, rallying these miles and getting them out, it could get a little frustrating, but for the overall health of the group, it was perfect. It was very, very well thought of. But again, in a 4-hour ride, it now becomes 6 to 8.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And then the food and then too, like, once we got to a place to eat is great, but man, having a table for 20, 30, 40 people or whatever, or all that stuff, it was a long time just to get our food. So I was like, hey guys, I'll see you at the bar. And I'll get my bar food, sit at the bar, get my food, this and that, other people, whatever. And then we were out because I had to go back to edit or cut the stuff that I was sending. And then of course charge my stuff. So as a creator though, as a motovlogger, photographer, moto photographer kind of deal, whatever, it was very challenging, but very rewarding because I learned and I grew a lot in that aspect. And I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't in that, if I wasn't, fortunately invited by Adam for the convoy.
Yeah.
And I also saw how Adam works in terms, like you're talking about, hey, there's people I want to meet for YouTube, how they do things. I saw how this guy worked. And I was like, this guy, he's been doing it for a minute and he knows what he's doing. He knows the shots, he knows the tone, the stuff like that. And all in all, I was like, that's where he's at. That's why he's at Acceptable. You know what I'm saying? But what I found interesting was his personal story before that. He has a book. I don't just leave it all in there. It's all in there. I'm not gonna get into that. But yeah, no, the day-to-day, brother, it was challenging. And then and there's just little things like the exhaust clamp that holds a heat shield was rattling. I need a screwdriver. Oh, great. But then the actual thing it broke off. Well, damn, I'm sorry, this dealership. This deal doesn't have it. Well, you're riding with this whole thing, till whatever, till the next day you find it, then you have to get it, and you have to take off the heat. So little things like that, because that happened to me. And I guess I just tightened the tube up, or just with the distance, man.
Yeah.
But it was, and then of course, with the ride like that, we had to pack for everything.
Mm-hmm. Every type of weather, yeah.
Everything. And it was the first time that I've actually packed for everything. One thing is like, I'm by myself. If I don't like this, I just go to the nearest hotel, screw it, call it a day, or underpass, whatever. But that wasn't an option here. We were moving, and I'm it was part of the media team, right? So I can't be like, hey, I'll see you there. One thing is I'll get ahead of you so I can get these shots, and I would do a lot of that.
Yeah.
Or stay behind as they went, and then get the group, and then pass them up, and then get those shots, and then kind of do catch up, and then show up with them later. So there were some times that I was in the convoy, but I wasn't with them the whole time.
So did the actual convoy end at the homecoming rally?
No, it ended at Sturgis.
Sturgis.
At Buffalo Shit.
So, but it was still going on during the homecoming? Like, did y'all stop?
Yeah, no, we stopped there. We stopped there at the homecoming. And I'd never been, but I tell you what, I wouldn't go to homecoming just to go because it's so close to Sturgis. That's just me personally. But I would go to Brady Street.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if it's because of the homecoming, but put it like this: if I would go to homecoming, it wouldn't be for the Harley stuff. Mm-hmm. It would be for Brady Street, maybe a few people we hang out with, stuff like that. But I wouldn't go out of my way because the parking there sucks, and then the police there are not motorcycle friendly. And what I mean by that is this: where it was at this past year, I don't know if you've been out there where it's at. But where it was at last year, you have like, 2-lane road coming, a big kind of medium, and then 2-lane road coming, right? Mm-hmm. And there's like little things where you can turn, right? Come like a U-turn kind of thing. They were all blocked, right? And, I passed where you take a right, and I was going, and it's just dead traffic, stopping and going. And I was like, man, my engine's going to get it over it. I know it's a new bike, but damn, bro.
Yeah.
I was in there for a while in the clutch and whatever. And then I finally see the thing, and there was a cop there. Was like, hey, man, I got to go this way because my bike's overheating. And he's like, oh, we'll park it over there. And I was like, well, I can't do that. I was like, fuck. I was like, all right. I kept going. So by the time I got to the other one, I just kind of went to kind of pull. The guy gets by my bike. The cop, there was another cop. He's like, no, you can't. You got to keep going. I was like, the guy's like, if my bike heats up, I'm going to cause further traffic because I'm not going to move my bike at this point. And then same thing with the other one. Until finally I saw some guys in some sports bikes. They were splitting lanes. And it was a tight fit.
Yeah.
I was just so frustrated. I was like, screw it. I got insurance, screw this. Bam, bam, bam. And then finally we got to one, and it was still backed up. and there was nobody there, but it was roped off. I was like, screw this. So me and well, it was by myself. So I went around and U-turned, and then I finally went all the way back. But then there was no cops. I guess it had got called to leave or something on the way back. So I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of the design either. That, but again, it's kind of like the Arizona bike rally. Nobody's blocking anything for these motorcycles.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Daytona, they block certain things for the motorcycles. Sturgis, the same thing. Galveston, the same thing. But there, like when you go into Grave Creek to Arizona, it's one way of coming in. They don't stop the vehicles from coming in because I guess there's no other way. But at least you got to figure something out, guys. You know what I mean? Because that I wasn't a fan. And same thing with over there. They don't move anything around for the rally. And I would think that if it's corporate, that there would have been certain measures in place. You know what I mean, for that. But that aside, Brady Street was a heck of a time. I don't think I've ever been to any, not that there was a rally, but to any rally that offered what Brady Street offered.
So what was the Brady Street vibe like?
First of all, bumper to bumper, shoulder to shoulder, I should say, is a wide street. Everybody is, there's burnout central going on everywhere. People are walking around with cold ones. There's bars on the side, a very free environment. There's cops there, and there's people are burning out in front of the cops. But the cops are like, hey, man, as long as you don't get in a fight. There are actually cops escorting people through the crowds of the middle of the street to get let the bikes get out. So you see all the smoke with the lights and the Baja lights and all this good stuff. People are dancing, girls are dancing on their bikes and stuff. People are backing it up, and I'll just leave it at that. And there's bars all around the way. You can kind of get in and out and stuff. And it was a good night adult life vibe. I'll tell you that with bikers. That was, I don't think I've ever seen it at Sturgis, at Daytona, at even at the rallies down in Houston and Galveston, Arizona Bike Week. I've never seen anything, not even 6th Street when I was doing my Austin stuff and college and stuff. Like, I'd never seen anything like that. And it could have just been that one and only time. But when I'm talking about people are just, it's almost like the performance hangover show with all the burning out and stuff like that, but with people just right next to you. And and it was a really good time. But I wasn't able to share none of that because everything I had was, it was over for Adam. Yeah. That makes sense. But no, it was a good time. But overall, I will say you have to learn how to ride it. And all in all, I think by the time I was said and done, it was like 14,500 miles for me.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I lost weight. Which was pretty cool, but not the kind of way I wanted to lose it.
Yeah.
And you have to be very careful with what you eat because you don't want to have bubble guts on a road trip like that.
Yeah.
So, but what made it very tough for me was when that happened, there was a hurricane that hit Houston. My wife was out of power for a week, and I was over there with them.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I was like, man, I gotta bounce, dude, but it had just started. I was like, no, I got it here, good trooper, this and that. But I always had that. And I always had that in the back of my head. Yeah,
you feel like, you still have responsibility to your family. And being out on the road is amazing, but it does come with a sense of selfishness at times. Like, man, should I be here? I mean,
no, 100%, man. So, and so I think out of the whole thing, besides the getting out and packing and getting my thing, and of course, on the video side of the house, getting this Wi-Fi and data stuff to work to upload this stuff so it can be edited, because Adam needed it as soon as possible for the editor and stuff. You know what I mean? And so we were there by 9. I could have been in bed by 9:30, showered and stuff, but I had to stay up till 1 a.m. to make sure everything was uploaded, and then so I can clear the deck, because that's a lot of data. Yeah, it's a lot of memory, bro. When we just burn.
So you're kind of cutting it down from what you shot to then give to the editor so they can refine for the actual video.
Right.
No, that makes sense.
Because, yeah, man, I didn't want to miss something that was good.
Yeah.
But bro, man, we were at the highest point. What is it? Blue Ridge Road or Mount Ridge
Blue
Road?
Ridge Parkway?
Yeah, man. Beautiful, bro. And then we went to the highest point in East United States.
Which is a Grandfather Mountain?
Yeah. Way up there, bro.
Yeah.
Way up there. And even then, we were thinking, because the group split up. I was like, man, screw this. I'm going to go back because I'm tired, bro. I'm dead beat, bro. But there was a group that wanted to go. And from the entire group, it was only like 6, 7 of us. And I was like, when am I going to be here?
Mm-hmm.
When am I ever going to be here?
Yep.
So we did it. We got there to the place
Sounds like
later
you
on.
and I when we went to Pikes Peak.
Oh.
And we didn't go all the way to the top.
Yeah. But I was wondering, so we took it. And dude, curves and stuff. And you got to, those tight banks there, you have to be very good with controlling the throttle and the brake at the same time.
Yeah.
Because they were basically jackknives up in the corner to where if you stopped, your foot wasn't going to touch, your bike was going to roll.
Yeah.
And you were going to roll with it.
Yeah, that's a point. That's a Forrest Gump point where like there's a sign that says Forrest Gump ran this hill up Grandfather Mountain, and it's like a zigzag up some of it. But at the top, it's pretty cool. You go out on all like the walkway things and stuff they have.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sick stuff. And then of course, if you catch it at the right time of year,
dude,
it's all the leaves.
I will never forget this. That when we were going up, you see the mist in the mountains. We were able to touch the mist. God's creation, bro. Yeah. Oh my God, beautiful. But that's what gets us excited, right, about the ride. And again, I don't know when that'll happen again, if it ever will. Yeah. But it happened that time. So all in all, I was very lucky, very blessed on both ends. For one, to be invited to asked to do this. Another one, to have the backing of my beautiful wife and supporting family. Yeah. That I also was blessed. In the middle, it was me that kind of had to, kind of figure things out, because I had never done nothing like that. But I was like, well, how am I going to learn? And this is a good opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so again, it was probably one of the toughest things in terms of creativity, but also the biggest blessing in that, because I was able to learn and grow with that with myself. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ideas I have that I see that I can incorporate. It's just the time. I don't have the time. Yeah. Because you have to be very careful on not being copycat if you have integrity, in my opinion.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to, things are going to overlap 100%, but you don't want to, I got this and now I got this, So that's also a thing. But no, it was all in all, it was a good appearance. And of course the cause, I'm a veteran myself. My son's now a veteran himself. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm first generation. He's second generation. My daughter, go in the Air Force. And then my youngest, I don't know, he might join the Marine Corps because he was eating crayons the other day, but he's also 3. So, love all you Marines and love all your Air Force and Space Force and stuff and everything. That's just, a little military joke and stuff. Yeah. But if he doesn't do the, football thing or soccer thing, but all in all, it was a very good experience, and happy that I am blessed that I went.
Hell yeah. Well, crew, I think we about wrapped it up, man. We caught up with you for the last 2 years. We'll probably have to do another one of these after Sturgis when we get this project done and be able to kind of talk about that experience of doing an all-out build. But, I do appreciate it, you coming out and, keep doing what you're doing and stuff. But tell everybody where to find your channel and everything like that. Yeah.
So Forrest, thank you for having me over. And, us Texas guys here doing something. But you guys can get a hold of me at 2147 Crew. On YouTube and of course on Instagram, and then and I was asked this before, but you guys might be wondering what 2147 Crew is. Well, I converted 131 cubic inches to cc's, so technically it's 2,146.7, but I rounded it up, and at the time that 131 was a thing, so that's what it was. And no, there's no crew, there's just me and just friends that hang out. So but thank you again, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate it too, bud. All right.